On this edition of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast, his name is Mike. He's from Calgary, and he works for the Atlanta Braves. Mike Frostad joins us. Welcome to episode 66 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. Mike Frostad has had a unique vantage point from his perch in the dugout over the years. The Calgary native spent 22 years with the Toronto Blue Jays organization, starting with the Baby Jays in Medicine Hat, and eventually 6 seasons as the big club's assistant athletic trainer. He's held that same post with the Atlanta Braves over the last couple of years. The University of Calgary grad has many accolades to his name and still calls Alberta home in the offseason. Recently, Frostad was one of the speakers at Little League Alberta's Coaching, Training, and Leadership Conference in his hometown. During a break between sessions, he sat down with our own Ian Wilson to talk about his journey to the majors, his day-to-day workflows, and that other Mike from Calgary.
Mike, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Ian. I appreciate you having me here.
Why don't we start at the beginning, your start in baseball. How did you get into the sport and develop, I assume you have a love for it?
I do now, for sure. If I don't, I wouldn't be where I am today. But basically, I started off, I was a athletic therapy student at the University of Calgary back in the mid-90s. And I was fortunate enough to be working with the football team, believe it or not. Yeah. And we went to the Vanier Cup that year, 1995. And our professor at the University of Calgary, the head therapist for the school, asked me, 3 games into the regular season, if we went to the Vanier Cup, if I would go along with him. Of course, I wanted to say yes, and I went, and we managed to make it all the way to the Vanier Cup. And once I got there to Toronto, where the championship was held, I met up with some people from the Blue Jays, and I was fortunate enough to stay in contact with them over the next several months, and they actually had a position open up shortly thereafter in the spring of '96, and I interviewed for the position, and they hired me, and here we are 24 years later, and I've been a Major League athletic trainer for 8 of those years, and a medical coordinator for 7 of them, and 24 years total in professional baseball. So I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at.
I do want to ask you a little bit more about the Blue Jays in a minute, but let's talk about the day-to-day with your work as a assistant athletic trainer. Because I don't think a lot of people necessarily know what you're doing, whether you're grabbing a kit with Band-Aids in it or just kind of walk us through the day-to-day and what the job entails.
Yeah, it's a lot of preparation trying to get guys ready to play more than anything. We have 2 full-time athletic trainers on staff. We have 2 full-time physical therapists and 2 full-time strength coaches. Every now and then we'll have an intern that's there for us, but for the most part, our job is going to entail getting the players ready to go every day for the pregame and more so for the game, and a lot of that is hands-on work, a lot of soft tissue work. We do take care of a little bit of rehab stuff if guys have some nagging injuries. We're doing some exercises with them, or just kind of going through programs that they've got going on as far as hitting or throwing, and there's a lot that goes into it. And unless you could come and spend a couple days in my shoes, I think I'd be missing a lot of stuff, So, but it's really, for me, it's preparation for the players leading up to the game, and then obviously once the game starts, our main job switches to, let's keep our eye out for anything that happens. Keep an eye on the players, and we'll have to make spot decisions at times whether or not we leave a player in or take them out. But that's what we've been trained to do, and they've afforded us that luxury to do it. So
let's talk about the Blue Jays. You spent almost 22 years in that organization. What was that time like? I mean, that's 2 decades of I know there's some minor league work in there as well, but with the big club, and just walk us through some of those experiences.
Yeah, so I started, my first year was 1996, and I was I was young, I was fresh out of school, and I hadn't worked any baseball in my life, and I was green as they could be. But I'll tell you what, those experiences early on really helped shape me for down the road where I'm at now. And I couldn't be more grateful to the Blue Jays organization for giving me the opportunity to get started. I did spend 22 years there. It was 96 through 2017, and I'll tell you what, they were great. I got my break into the big leagues with them there. My first year was 2010. Was back in the minor leagues for a couple years as a medical coordinator after that. But come 2013, I was back into the big leagues for good, and was part of the process that helped get the team out of their playoff drought in both 2015 and 16, and those were some amazing times, like just everything that led into those games, and winning the AL East, beating Texas for 2 straight years in the playoffs, unfortunately losing to Kansas City, and getting knocked out in 2015, and then Cleveland in 2016. We're so close to getting to the World Series, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything right now.
You were around for the bat flip. I assume that's a moment that ranks up there. But any specific moments or players or coaches that kind of from the Blue Jays days specifically that come to mind from your time there? Well,
the bat flip was definitely one of the biggest moments, I think, in Blue Jays lore, and unfortunately I was watching the ball and not the bat, so I got to see it as most people did on TV after the fact. But there's honestly too many people to really go through and try and tell you who shaped me to be where I'm at today. So many different athletic trainers that I've leaned on to gain new information, not just from the Blue Jays, but from other organizations that we share information and thoughts, and even the coaches. My first year I had myself, and we had our manager Rocket Wheeler, and our pitching coach was Neil Allen, and there was no hitting coach. There was no clubhouse guy on the road. So here I am doing laundry at 2 a.m. at the hotel, and that was just part of it.
I signed up for this.
And it, like I said, I wouldn't trade it though. It got me to where I am today, and it helped to shape me as the person that I am now. But I wish I could just pick certain people, but I would hate to miss anybody, and I don't want to do that because there are so many that have just kind of helped me along the way. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's talk about your exit from the team. Did you kind of know that was coming? How hard was that, dealing with that transition? And did you know that you might have something with the Braves lined up as quick as you did, or were you?
No, to be honest, the whole Braves thing kind of materialized after Alex Anthopoulos got the position as the general manager, and he brought the head trainer over from the Blue Jays, George Poulos. And obviously George was in Toronto with me. I actually was there before him, but not in the major leagues. But he and I worked together for many, many years. From my first year as a coordinator in 2005, I dealt a lot with the major league players and helping him out at spring training, and he knew what I was capable of. And I had just been let go by the Blue Jays at the end of the 2017 season. And I think he was hired on by the Braves in December of 2017, and by about the middle of January or so, things had kind of fallen into place where he was able to bring me over to the Braves and give me a fresh start.
We hear a lot about, and we focus a lot in the sports world on the athletes and the coaches changing teams and stuff like that. How difficult or how hard was that transition for you? Was it a trying time initially for you?
Initially when I was first let go, I was devastated, to be quite honest. I had spent half of my life as a Blue Jay, 22 years with the organization, and it really kind of hurt at the time. But I found that in this situation, the grass is a little bit greener on the other side, and I've landed on my feet in a good spot. We've got a good team here in Atlanta, and I think we're poised to do good things. We've been in the playoffs the last 2 years, but it is a great situation right now, and I'm just looking forward to getting on and getting into next season and hopefully have another good playoff run.
When Josh Donaldson joined the Braves, he was one of the guys who publicly vouched for the training staff and kind of, had your back, I guess, in a public way. How much did that mean to you? Because again, we don't focus on the, people aren't like, oh, did you hear like the assistant athletic trainer move? Like, I mean, the typical sports fan, not within baseball circles, but how much did it mean to have one of the players kind of vouch for your work?
Honestly, that means a lot, and I love Josh as a player. I love Josh as a person. For somebody that was the American League MVP in 2015, to put his rubber stamp on us as a medical staff, it really meant a lot. It made me a little bit worried at the start of the season because we're charged with having to keep him on the field. Oh. And knowing that the last 2 seasons of his career in Toronto, he didn't get to play as many games as he would have liked, and he was now vouching for us to be able to be the ones that could do that. And I want to say that we did everything we could this year to keep him out there. He did play in, I think, 158 games or so, kind of going back to where he was at before, but a lot of that lies on Josh Donaldson and his preparation. I can't say that we did anything special. I can't say that we did anything different, but I just know that him as a player, he wanted to be out there, and for him mentally that was a big thing, but knowing that we had his back at any given time was a big thing.
Tell me about the relationship with players and the training staff and the medical staff. How big is the mental Rolodex for how each player likes to handle their health and your role within that? What is that relationship like?
Yes, we've got 25 different players at any given time, maybe a few extras if there's some guys on the injured list, but that means 25 different personalities, and you kind of have to balance every one of those as they come, and it can be trying at times, especially when you get a new player in and you don't really know their personality that well. It's got to be a real quick learning curve because you have to be able to figure out who that person is and what their likes are and their dislikes. Sure. Soon as possible, because that's a big part of your team moving forward. Especially
with the Braves, which is a young team, right?
Yeah, we see a lot of movement up and down. Obviously, we've got some young up and coming players. Saw a few pitchers that came up through the ranks this year, but were ultimately sent back to AAA, and we'll see more of them in the future. But we've at least been able to establish a little bit of a relationship with every one of those guys, even if it's only at spring training where we see them for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and we get to develop those relationships with them, and moving forward, you just build on that as the season goes on.
Your tenure in Atlanta has been briefer than Toronto, obviously, but some good times so far. What any highlights with the Braves that come to mind thus far? Or?
Yeah, well, I've been there for 2 years now in Atlanta. Obviously, winning the National League East pennant, I think both years has to be at the top of my list right now. I've seen some amazing plays made. I've seen Ronald Acuna go 30-30, almost 40-40. Yeah. We've got 3 Silver Sluggers on our team this year. Freddie Freeman is a Wilson first baseman defender of the year. We've just got players that are piling on accolades here, and it seems like every single year, the last 2 years anyways, the awards are numerous, and Mike Soroka this year is up for the Rookie of the Year. He's a finalist for the Rookie of the Year for the National League, and it's just great to see these younger players and even some of your veteran guys that just mesh together, and they can all contribute together to work towards making this a winning club.
Let's talk about Mike a bit. He is the guest speaker this evening at this Little League Alberta event, hosted event. What's it like working with him? Is he one of is he a guy that you have to put out fires around, or is he pretty easy to work with?
No, he's easy to work with. Yeah. Him and I have developed a pretty good relationship. I think probably the fact that we're both from Calgary really helped, and it made things easy. My first spring training, where he was an invite to camp. He wasn't even on the roster, but he was at camp, and the fact that we shared that bond made it easy for me to go over and talk with him, and for him to talk with me, because there was that commonality in Calgary between us. And I think over the last 2 years we've really developed a good situation. He'll come to me pregame on his start days, and we'll do his routine and get him ready to go out for the game. And he's right on schedule. He's very particular with his routine, and he's an hour 25 before that first pitch goes, and he wants to be on the training room table getting his stuff done. And no question, at 6:55 for a 7:20 start, I'll see him walk through the door. So it's been great having Mike, and I really look forward to working with him for a lot of years.
I haven't been sitting in on the sessions today, but maybe you can walk me through some of the trends or themes or issues within the training world and within your profession that have been addressed.
So what we've been dealing with here at the Coaching, Training, and Leadership Conference is really just that. We've discussed a lot of things with long-term athlete development. How do we progress our young kids to become all-around athletes in the future? So not just developing a baseball player, not just developing a hockey player, or not just developing a gymnast, but to make that child an all-around athlete instead of just focusing on one sport. And that goes back to the specialization. We don't want to have our kids that are 11 and 12 and 13 years old just stop playing a certain sport and focusing on one thing. We want them to take that time in the off seasons for their sport and play something else. Play soccer in the summer if you're going to play hockey in the winter, or play hockey and baseball or basketball. Add something else in. Just play. You don't even have to be in an organized sport, but just get out and play. And that's really been one of the main things that we've been trying to drive home with everybody. We've got a good contingency of Little League type coaches and administrators that are here, but we're trying to branch this out to be all-encompassing and not just specific to baseball. We want to see hockey people here. We want to see gymnastics, basketball, football, lacrosse. We really want to make this an all-encompassing event, and hopefully in the years to come it grows and we can get some of those people in here. But we've also been discussing concussion is a big thing. There's a lot of talk with concussion in hockey and football, and the lawsuits that are going on. You really have to be cautious with your young athletes because they're susceptible as well. And we've spent a little bit of time on baselining for concussion using the Kinetiscent system, a company that's based out of Medicine Hat, and also with just going through what a Major League Baseball protocol would be for handling a concussion. We've talked about the mental aspect of the game. How do parents and coaches and officials, your umpires, your referees, how do they impact the young sports? And so it's really been an all-around type event, even getting to the point where we're talking about overuse type injuries in our young athletes. We had Dr. Tim Griffith here with us, who's from Atlanta, who works with the Braves and Georgia University, and just trying to drive home the fact that our young players are really, we can't abuse them because they're not going to enjoy sports, but they're also going to end up in a doctor's office or worse, on a surgery table, and those are the things that we're trying to avoid.
Specific to concussions, I feel like we've collectively learned a lot in that realm over the last couple of decades, really. How much more is there to learn and figure out when it comes to your role and the athlete's role and the coach's role in just protecting and the players, but also allowing them to play when they can?
Well, I think the biggest thing with the concussion is if any player comes up with any types of symptoms, we have to be cautious, and you need to err on the side of caution, and you have to remove that player from the game or the practice if they're experiencing any symptoms, or if you've seen a hit that could potentially cause a concussion. It doesn't have to be a direct blow to the head. This could be a hit to the body that causes a whiplash type effect of the neck, which causes the brain to jar inside the skull, and it's really something that can be quite detrimental in the future. We had a video with Daniel Carcillo today talking about how he would take everything back from playing in the NHL if he knew what his brain was going to be like at this time. We've talked about Aaron Hernandez, the football player from the Patriots, where he committed suicide, which is unfortunately the end for a lot of these players when they do have CTE, which is a byproduct of a concussion. Junior Seau, I believe, was another one. And these are some of the things that we've been discussing, and we really have to be proactive when it comes to dealing with concussion and managing concussion. It's not about how you diagnose it or how you even initially handle it, but you have to handle it the right way. It has to be managed properly in order for that athlete to return in a safe and proper timeline.
What does last question for you? What does the off season look like for you? What kind of things are there? Things in your quote unquote game that you kind of work on before next season, or is it just sit back and chill out?
I wish it was sit back and chill out. Right now it's free agent season in baseball, so we're busy doing a lot of free agent medical reviews, and our front office is deep into a lot of guys right now, and we just have to try and give our expert medical opinions on how we think a player is going to be, and keep our fingers crossed that we're right, because we don't want anybody keeping score that that they were right, we were wrong. But we try and do our best, and we get through a lot of medical reviews. I think we've probably done about a little over a dozen right now. Free agency just opened up after the World Series ended, so we've been busy. Hopefully over the next few months, I'll be able to get on my honeymoon, which is a year overdue. But
congratulations!
Thank you. It was something that we've been trying to plan out for a little bit of a break after Christmas, leading into New Year's, and I'll probably be heading back down to Florida for spring training come early February.
So Florida will not be the honeymoon?
Florida's not the honeymoon.
Or Atlanta, I assume?
No, not this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for making time for the podcast today, and just continued success in the future.
All right, Ian. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks again to Mike Frostad for joining us this week, and a tip of the cap to Ian for the great interview. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the podcast. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Podbean. And if you can, leave us a rating and review to let us know what you think. Until next time, thanks again for all of your support, no matter the platform, of Alberta Dugout Stories.